Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Helsinki for the MSEM format. I'm Caillou, and today we're going to be watching the round 4 match between Cyber and Cajun. So Cyber is on Dreamsight control, which is a 140 card Sultai control deck, which overcomes its natural inconsistency by playing lots of redundancy and lots of tutors. It runs 140 cards because its titular card Dreamsight draws 5 cards if you have 100 or more cards in library. Meanwhile, Cajun is playing Alduin's Shadows, which is essentially a half control, half reanimator deck. It uses lots of disruption in the early game, and then wins the late game by reanimating a huge dragon and then swinging once or twice with it. So we're going to see one of Cajun's early disruption pieces here, going to run out a hand attack with Prying Inquiry. Okay, it reveals Once Abandoned, Xanagan. Oh my god, 3 Once Abandoned, a Memento Mori, and a Xanagan. I think if you're Cajun, barring weird circumstances, probably takes a Memento Mori. Cajun also does have an enchantment reanimation spell, but I think, yeah, taking the Memento Mori makes sense. The Once Abandoned, with the Cyber having 3 of them, if Cajun's plan was to use the enchantment spell, might as well just discard it at this point, dog. It is not happening. Yeah, this is looking like it's going to be an uphill battle for Cyber, and it's facing some of that natural inconsistency that you do get with Dreamsight. So if Cajun can just, reanimate her out next turn. But for now, Cajun's just going to crack the clue that he got from the Prying Inquiry, draw a card. Guess Cajun was looking for a 4th land, which he does hit with the Wayfarer Shrine, but is just passing for now. It looks like Cajun might also be hitting less than ideal draws here, or is just playing around Cyber's board. Oh, but a nice top deck from Cyber is going to cast an Ancestral Council, and if this finds a Dreamsight things could go very poorly for Cajun. And yep, finding the Dreamsight God, Cajun's still with nothing. If Cajun had managed to have one of the quicker combo starts, might have been able to take a Cyber stumble and capitalize on it. But right now, this is stabilization for Cyber. Just going to cast a Dreamsight draw 5 cards back up. You can discard a bunch of the Once Abandons during cleanup and stick with the actually good interaction. And then it's going to swing in for 1 with the Ancestral Council. It's a clock, I guess. So Cyber, as expected, discarding 2 of the Once Abandons and a Singularity's Grasp, which Singularity's Grasp might actually be worth keeping. Because even though it's an expensive one, it is a removal spell. But I guess Cyber just drew into better cards there. And next turn, if Cajun doesn't have anything immediately, could just drop a Xanagan. Of course, that play is vulnerable to Cajun just grabbing a Hasty Dragon right off the bat. But then I'm assuming that Cyber has removal for at least 1 dragon off of the Dreamsight Okay, Cajun's going to run out another Prying Inquiry. If Cyber only drew 1 piece of removal off of this. Okay, so it reveals Mystic Arts, Seek Prophecy, Exit as the new cards. So probably just, I'm actually kind of surprised that Cyber didn't cast a Mystic Arts in response to this, but yeah, I guess Cajun's just going to grab the Exit, but then on end, Cyber can just cast Mystic Arts and tutor up 2 more removal spells. And yep, here comes the Mystic Arts on end, finding Exit and Seal the Tomb, both of which, are 1 mana answers to Cajun's Reanimator combo. And the Seal the Tomb here notably was shuffled in by the Dreamsight earlier. It's not a main board card. So now this means Cyber can play Xanagan next turn and still have interaction up for Cajun's combo. And yep, here comes Xanagan. And I think this is probably one of the first times that Xanagan's emblem is going to come in handy, because Cyber is going to get to swing in for now 2 with the Ancestral Council. And this means that Cyber has a 3-turn clock, I believe, with the Ancestral Council plus the Xanagan. Swings for 5 next turn, 6 the next. So actually, yeah, exactly a 3-turn clock. And Cajun's just going to concede there. And yeah, I really wish I knew what was in Cajun's hand, because that seemed to be such a bad draw for him to just give Cyber all of that leeway, and even after 2 pieces of hand attack and the cycling from the clues, just finding nothing. But yeah, let's look at sideboarding to see what both of these players could do. So for Cajun, I think Thought Blossom as interactive counter magic is probably the first thing. And then maybe Ephemeral Adept as additional hand attack. But I think definitely the Thought Blossom's out for stuff like the Winged Descents, which are kind of dead in this matchup, which also might have been what Cajun was drawing into. But yeah, that's my thought. I don't think Cajun has much else from the side in this matchup. Meanwhile, for Cyber, I think you move Seal the Tombs main, Banish main, Arena's Defiance main, side out some of the wipes, and like counter and like not relevant interaction to compensate. Like I think Prying Inquiry might be good actually, but I think Singularity's Grasp, Stand Unassailable, Truth Unveiled can all probably come out. Same with Violent Collapse. So that's my read on what Cyber's going to be doing for sideboarding. So starting game 2 off with a Wheat from Chaff from Cajun, discarding Tyrant Toppler, which is one of the reanimation targets, and a Withering Husk, which is also good from the grave due to its Conjure ability. So this is kind of a fast start for Cajun, as long as Cyber doesn't have the Seal the Tombs. And Cyber just going to play Wayfarer's Shrine and pass. And has another, Cajun has another Withering Husk from hand. I guess chooses not to use the discard trigger though. I'm just going to play it out as a 2-1. So Cajun's going to swing in for 2 with the Withering Husk, use its attack trigger to discard Shadows of Alduin. Kind of surprised by that, because Cajun has a reanimation target in grave, so would probably want to keep the reanimation spell, unless Cajun has a cheaper one that Cajun's going to run out next turn. But all of the cheaper ones are 3 mana, as far as I remember, so not sure what that could be about. Maybe Constant Conjuring, the enchantment one, is 4 mana and I'm misremembering? Let me check. Okay, Constant Conjuring is 4 mana, so Cajun could have that. But I think I'd prefer to keep Shadows of Alduin even then, because Cyber does have stuff like Once Abandoned, which can just destroy the enchantment. So it just gives Cyber more interaction. And Cajun with the Nereba Sand Choked Archives. The Wanderlust ability on this is expensive, but if this game goes long, it can really help versus control. Okay, Cajun going to swing in with the Withering Husk once again, this time not using the attack trigger. Having this Withering Husk is really good for Cajun, because it means that if Cajun does decide to go off, reanimation targets will be safe from Exits and Memento Moris, as they are Edict type removal. But Cajun's still just passing. Kind of surprised by this, honestly. I guess is maybe waiting to have like hand attack for Cyber, but I don't know. Oh, but right as I say that, Cyber with a Prying Inquiry of their own. But oh my god, Cajun's going to try and counter it with the Thought Blossom, but Cyber has their own counter magic in Arcane Genesis. Yeah, in that War of the Interaction, Cyber ends up winning, because Thought Blossom on the Prying Inquiry would have been devastating, because then Cajun could have Prying Inquiry'd Cyber right back. Is going to be able to use Arcane Genesis' land trigger to fetch for a Crumbling Precipice. But let's look. Looks like Cajun did bring an Ephemeral Adept, and has 2 Constant Conjurings and another Thought Blossom. Oh man. This is really difficult for Cyber. I think, yeah, I don't know. Because next turn, if Cajun top decks another land, can play Constant Conjuring and have Thought Blossom support. So I think if you're Cyber, you probably just take the Thought Blossom, because then at least if Cajun does like Reanimator next turn, you can at least hope to have a window to answer it. Ephemeral Adept is annoying, but I think, oh no, Cyber is going to take the Ephemeral Adept. I was going to say that like Ephemeral Adept is annoying, but only if Cajun is going for the fair beatdown plan. But also, I guess Cajun is just swinging in with the Withering Husk and stuff. But still, I think Thought Blossom is so annoying for Cyber that I feel like taking that is more important than taking the Ephemeral Adept, unless Cyber doesn't have like redundancy in their hand, and like the Ephemeral Adept is at that point Ephemeral Adept becomes as bad as Thought Blossom, but it has a creature. Okay, Cajun is just gonna run out the Constant Conjuring. Cyber is tapped out, so Tyrant Toppler does get to swing in for a whopping 7, and then Cyber also takes 2 from the Withering Husk. So if Cyber doesn't have an answer to this, Tyrant Toppler does just lose next turn. Fortunately for Cyber though, Cajun did not top deck a blue land, so won't be able to have Thought Blossom backup. And Cyber has it, Strike from the Shadows. Just gonna kill the Tyrant Toppler. Cyber's still on a 2-turn clock though. Actually, important thing is, we know that Cajun has a second Constant Conjuring, so if Cyber doesn't have another piece of instant speed removal, Cyber just loses. And if that instant speed removal is an Edict, Cyber still loses. And Cyber needs to have 2 pieces of removal if Cajun top decks a land. Which is, once again, I really think that Cyber should have taken the Thought Blossom. But I guess probably sided out the wipes as well, which makes the Ephemeral Adept hard to deal with. Yeah, it's just a no-win situation. So Cajun's going to run out the Constant Conjuring, but Cyber does have the Seal the Tomb, and Cajun does not have the land for Thought Blossom. Oh, yikes. Cajun still has top decked an Ephemeral Adept and a Temporal Resuscitation after the last Prying Inquiry, which means Cajun swings in for 2 this turn with the Withering Husk, and then next turn can just win, right? Because even if Cyber answers the Withering Husk, can just conjure both Withering Husks from grave. Okay, so Cajun swings in with Withering Husk, uses the attack trigger to discard Temporal Resuscitation. So Cyber is on 1 life. This means that even if Cyber kills the Withering Husk, Cajun will be able to conjure it and then kill Cyber. So Cyber needs to have exile removal here, or Cyber just loses. Okay, Grave Tutor from Cyber. Prying Inquiry, Strike from Shadows. If Cyber sided in the Exile Edict, can tutor for that. Oh no, it looks like Cyber tutored for Stand Unassailable. Just going to gain 7 life and then pass. That does help Cyber stabilize for a little longer. Cajun can still, so it can swing in with Withering Husk this turn for 3. You're going to discard a Shimmering Dragon. Oh wow, so it did side in the Shimmering Dragon. And then on Cyber's end, cast Ephemeral Adept and has Thought Blossom back up even if Cyber has removal. So I think that Cajun does have this in the bag. Oh, but the natural Dreamsight, well, for Cyber, but I guess is forcing Cajun to run out the Thought Blossom. But Cyber has the negate! Once again, winning the counter wars versus these Thought Blossoms. I do think that Cyber tapped poorly here. Should have left one of the black lands open just in case Cyber top decks a Memento Mori. Because right now, with 1 in a black, that actually turns off a decent amount of Cyber's removal options. And Nomad's Township would have allowed Cyber to play green cards if Cyber needed to. Oh my god, and draws a second Dreamsight well off of the first. Gonna cast it with Lush Oasis plus the Lush Oasis that he drew and a Shifting Glade. I guess is really holding out for an Exeunt, but even that doesn't help here. On end, Cajun is just gonna run out the Ephemeral Adept. And yep, Ephemeral Adept coming down. So Cyber has Altmer Emissary, Banish, Ancestral Council. Yeah, this is over. Cyber has literally 0 outs here. And yeah, Cyber's just going to concede right there, so we're moving into Game 3. And Cajun opening up Game 3 much as he started Game 2. Wheat from Chaff again. But does he have the same strong Reanimator discard targets? It looks like he doesn't. Discarding a Swamp and a Winged Descent. Kept in the Winged Descents? I'm actually kind of surprised by that. Notably though, having it in his graveyard does mean it counts for Tomb, just in case he has other Tomb spells. I believe, other than Winged Descent, he has a big draw and discard one, so can make that cheaper. Meanwhile, Cyber with the Altmer Emissary, Cajun may be wishing that he kept that Winged Descent. Altmer just grows in power as long as it's unanswered, and is basically a 1-card win con. So Cajun just going to run out a Withering Husk, no trigger. I almost feel like, unless your hand is stacked, there's basically no reason not to trigger, just for the life loss. So I'm kind of wondering what Cajun's been having in hand. Okay, Cajun going to run out a Prying Inquiry. Revealing Conjure Realities, Exit, Seal the Tomb, Ancestral Council. Jesus, is that a hand? Yeah, there's kind of no good options here. I think you probably take Conjure Realities so Cyber can't just tutor up a Dreamsight well if they hit a 5th land. And then just hope for more interaction for Seal the Tomb and Exeunt. But yeah, actually, Jesus, there's no good choices here because, like, as soon as Cyber hits a 4th land, just plays Ancestral Council, finds Dreamsight while keeping up one of these two. Conjure Realities just tutors up everything. Exeunt is probably the worst card here, which is hilarious, because usually it's just insane as the format's best 1-mana removal spell, but Withering Husk makes it look kind of dumb. And then Seal the Tomb is obviously just the nuts versus a Reanimator deck. So Cajun is just going to take the Ancestral Council to prevent the curve of Ancestral Council into hold up 1-mana interaction. But God, that's just such a painful hand for Cyber to have versus Cajun. Like, as much as we talk about variance with Dreamsight, I feel like all of those moments where variance is screwed over Cyber have all come back to energize Cyber for this one moment. Okay, on end, Cyber's going to use Altmer Emissary's ability to mill themselves for 2, and then just going to pass. Because yeah, Cyber can just keep milling themselves with Altmer Emissary, and then as soon as they hit 7 cards in grave, can start drawing cards off of Altmer or recurring relevant spells from grave. So this is kind of just a nightmare for Cajun, and I don't know what Cajun can do here. I guess if Cajun has even Ephemeral Adepts, I don't think put the beat on fast enough to stop this, but at least they're like a wide enough board such that it makes it harder for Cyber to do anything. Could also just try and wait until Cajun has Thought Blossom back up, and then like try to swing 7 with the Tyrant Toppler, but like, God, I don't know if that's a good idea. Okay, Cajun going to swing for 3 with the Withering Husk again. At least it's like a 5-turn clock, I guess, but definitely need something a little bit better, because in 5 turns, Cyber will have emphatically taken over the game with Altmer Emissary. So Cyber is going to run out of Banish from hand onto the Withering Husk. In response, Cajun is going to Ephemeral Adept himself. I guess probably means that Cajun had a Withering Husk in hand and didn't want it to be exiled by Banish. So, but Cajun revealing 3 Withering Husks from library. So now I'm not sure what the Self-Ephemeral Adept was about. I guess probably just going to play the Ephemeral Adept anyways, and just wanted to do it in response then. Also notably, this does mean that Cyber is tapped out. Okay, Cajun has 1 turn where Cyber's tapped out. What can Cajun do with it? Okay, first of all, has a Winged Descent for the Altmer Emissary. Okay, then going to swing for 3 with Ephemeral Adept plus the token, and then just going to pass. Because of the Winged Descent that got milled off of the Wheat from Chaff turn 1 of this game, the second Wheat from Chaff only costs 3 because of Tomb. So Cajun can crack this clue on Cyber's end, which is coming right now because Cyber's just going to draw and pass. I guess still has not hit that 4th land. So Cajun swung in with both again, but Cyber had the Exeunt. So Cajun just sacks Ephemeral Adept, but keeps swinging in with the token. So Cyber is on a 4-turn clock here, but now has hit the 4th land, so can start getting something moving right here. Like Conjure Realities into Dreamsight well, into as long as Cyber hits a black land, can they just play a black land and keep the Seal the Tomb up? Seems like a great play. So yep, Cyber is going to run out Conjure Realities. Okay, and is then going to Abound, presumably Dreamsight well. Moment of truth, though, is does Cajun have the Thought Blossom for the Dreamsight well? Because if so, I think Cajun will have taken a game that looked impossible for him to win, and then turned it all around. Oh, interestingly, Cyber not getting a Dreamsight well is going to get a banish to try and banish this token. I guess this is there to play around Cajun having a Thought Blossom. Also working on the assumption that uh, okay, so the temporal resuscitation that was the token gets exiled. Um, Reveals Shadows of Alduin, a Dreadfire Tyrant, and a land from hand. Oh, this is actually kind of interesting because oh, but doesn't have a way to cast a Dreadfire Tyrant. Um, Notably, next turn Cajun can just go Shadows of Alduin without Cyber having a response. Yeah, and Cyber doesn't have another black land. And then on end, Cajun's gonna crack the second clue. And yeah, I really feel like a Dreamsight Well would have been the right play there. But I guess Cyber was too afraid of the Thought Blossoms, which does make sense. Okay, first Cajun's gonna actually pay 2 mana for Draconic Divulging. I guess it's trying to hit a hasty Tyrant Toppler instead of the Dreadfire Tyrant. I guess this also lets Cajun discard the Dreadfire Tyrant for sure, rather than relying on the Shadows of Alduin mill. So here comes Shadows of Alduin. So mills, Constant Conjuring, Tyrant Toppler, and then 2 lands. So I think brings back the Tyrant Toppler, and then just swings 7 hasty. Yup, 7 hasty. So Cyber is down to 1 life right here. We know though that Cyber has a way to exile Dreadfire Tyrant, but if Cyber doesn't have a removal spell here for Tyrant Toppler, just loses. Okay, he's gonna seal the tomb, I guess for the scry, but that's not drawing a card. Oh, so he's seal the tombing Dreadfire Tyrant on their own upkeep in order to try and like select the draw. Oh, and it looks like Cajun did draw into a Thought Blossom. So not only will Cyber need a piece of removal here, Cyber will need 2 pieces of removal, in addition to also having the mana for it naturally. So yeah, it needs like Exeunt into I don't even know. Like needs Blackland, Exeunt, and then Memento Mori or like Strike from the Shadows. Okay, has a Strike from the Shadows, and actually I forgot that Cajun was tapped out, so does not need 2 pieces of removal, just needed the 1, and hits the Hail Mary Strike from the Shadows off the Scry from the Seal the Tomb. It looks like. So now Cajun has Cyber at 1 though, so oh man, this would be a great time to have some of those Withered Husks that all got exiled by the banish, and oh. Like Dreadfire Tyrants all exiled, Tyrant Toppler gone. It needs another reanimation spell, but we know that all Cajun has in hand is Prying Inquiry. Okay, so it's gonna run out Prying Inquiry now. Probably just gonna immediately crack the clue. Okay, reveals another Seal the Tomb and a negate. Yeah, I think you just snap grab Seal the Tomb here. Yep. That leaves Cyber with 1 card in hand. Oh, and it's just gonna pass. I feel like if I was Cajun, I would have cracked the clue, hoped to hit a 3 mana reanimation spell, and then tried to kill Cyber right that turn. Because otherwise, yeah, the top deck stand unassailable. Okay, Cajun is going to Ephemeral Adept in response. This means Cajun can shuffle away. This is actually really interesting because Cajun can shuffle away Ephemeral Adept, shuffle away the negate, and then Thought Blossom the stand unassailable. And yeah, that's it. Cyber doesn't have an answer. So despite that incredibly stacked initial hand from Cyber, Cajun fights through it bitterly and manages to, through his own interaction suite, take out Cyber. So good games to both players, but Cajun on Alduin's Shadows takes it 2-1 over Cyber on Dreamsight Control.